No musical form is more strongly rooted in American culture than jazz. And these days, the jazz scene is booming in New Haven. News 8's Keith Kountz talked to one of the Elm City's most distinguished jazz musicians and teachers to find out what this is all about. Here's this week's edition of Keith's Corner.
There is no better authority on jazz than Jesse Hameen II. He's played professionally since the age of 10 and has been chair of the Jazz and Rock Studies Department at the Neighborhood Music School for the past 16 years. I ask him why jazz matters.
This is born and bred here in the United States. It's us. The rhythms, the interpretation of the music came from African American spirituality, but then it took on. Now it's international.
Hameen has had a front row seat for the rise, fall, and current resurgence of jazz in the Elm City.
When I was coming up in the 60s, during the 50s, the 60s, there was jam sessions.
And there were jazz clubs all around.
When I was in the 60s and everything, 50s and 60s jazz clubs everywhere. You can point, especially in the Dixon Avenue area, you can just point your finger, spin somebody to spin you blindfolded, in whatever direction you walked in, you could walk to a jazz club.
Then came the disco music craze of the 1970s, which led to the closing of many jazz clubs and a slowdown in record sales for even the most prominent artists.
Even Freddie Hubbard got dropped from the label he was on, and Freddie Hubbard being one of the giants of jazz.
But times have changed, with communities such as New Haven leading the way. The New Haven Jazz Festival, which brought top artists to the green on 3 Saturdays this summer, is increasing in popularity. There are now more than half a dozen jazz clubs in the city. Several New Haven public schools teach jazz, and the jazz program at the Neighborhood Music School is humming, with dozens of young people taking lessons.
Music is spiritual, and then they learn community life in music. If you're in a band, you have to learn patience, you have to learn support, you have to learn to listen. All over the country, I find that 99.9 or maybe more than that % of the young people that are involved in music, especially jazz, they don't get in trouble.
What's next? Hameen says thanks to support from the Harp administration, he expects next summer's Jazz Festival to be even bigger. Sweet sounds for jazz lovers across Connecticut. In Keith's Corner, Keith Kountz, News 8.
You know, jazz is one of those things, if you just expose yourself to it, you like it more and more. Many of the big-name artists who play at the Jazz Festival every year also hold master classes where they teach up-and-coming young jazz musicians in the city.